Good morning on today's WOTWIP and Coffee. And I do have coffee. Let me get a sip. And yes, I do drink my coffee in this big cup. All right. The last time you saw this blanket was probably around this round here. And I did double crochet around on the ends, and then I did a couple of rows of granny stitches, and then I added some, again, another 5 rows of double crochet to this blanket. And this is where we are on it now, and I'm going to finish it now. I added 5 rows on 2 of the ends of both of these, and then I went around and did a couple rounds of granny stitches around the entire thing again. And like I said before, we were down here. I did that in the meantime, and now we are back up to this round, and I'm going to do we're going to finish this blanket today, hopefully. So I am going to do another round or 2 of granny crochet around the blanket. I'm not sure if I'm going to do just 1 round or if I'm going to do 2 rounds. But I am starting this with my granny crochet. Well, isn't that normal? Barely get started and we already had a battery go dead. Had changed the battery. Sorry about that, folks. So anyway, I do know that I'm going to do probably 1 round of granny square, or the granny stitch around this blanket. I don't know if I will be doing 2. I think I'm just going to add 1 row, and then to finish this blanket up, I'm going to do a scalloped edge. So, thought I'd take you along on this little final journey for this blanket, and then I will start a new blanket with the blues. I do plan on doing the greens as well, but I just wanted to start with the blues because this had so much green in it. And as you know, green is my favorite color next to purple. So yeah, thought I would do that and get it done. I have been having fun going through these totes. I have filmed a couple videos ahead going through the totes. Because I do have quite a few totes. So I thought I would just go through some of these that are in the one room that is behind me this way, and then I might go into the back room. We might go through some of those totes, but those totes are going to be a little hard to go through because they're already stacked up ready for the move, so I would have to restack them in a separate area, but I might go through those as I'm waiting. As you know, many of you know, I am selling my home. It has gotten to where it is too big for me to keep up with. So the easier option is just to sell it to someone who can handle the big house and move into a smaller house. You know, my son, he still teases me to this day, Mother, most people downsize, you supersized. Yeah, well, it was a dream home, and I do love this home. It is absolutely beautiful, but it is a little too big for just me. And I have had some folks ask me, well, why don't you just rent one of the rooms to someone? Well, then you got to go give them a key to the house. And then you got to get along, you know, and I'm kind of a private person. when it comes to things in my home. And I don't know that I want them going through my stuff. I'm kidding, folks. I had thought about that. But even then, it's still a big house to have to clean. So yeah, that was the other thoughts of doing that. My sister in Texas, she rents out, she has a large home. I believe it's I want to say a 6-bedroom home, 3 baths. And she has an upstairs that she has divided it into 2 apartments. And she rents to traveling nurses. And so we had talked about those kind of issues. And, she said you always, at some point you always do get somebody that's a little strange sometimes. Or you get somebody who doesn't follow the rules, and then you're stuck with cleanup afterwards. So, there are pros and cons to that whole thing all the way around. So, yeah, that was just something that we had discussed, and I decided, no, that's not really something that I am really interested in to begin with. Just not. So, there is that. And besides, I don't know how these cats would take to somebody. She has a couple of traveling nurses who have dogs with them. And I always find that odd for a traveling nurse. Why they would want to carry dogs along with them. And I know that it is hard to find places to rent when you have animals anyway. But my sister loves all animals. She has dogs and cats, so. And of course she has 2 of the original American Collie dogs. The original breed, not the new Collie breed, but the original breed. And she trains those. In the past, she's been training for search and rescue. However, she has changed over now to basically a therapy dog type, where she goes into children's cook hospital, and the dogs go around, to visit all the patients, that kind of thing. So, and she's done really well with her dogs. The newest dog, I think, is maybe 6 months old, and he's still in that puppy stage, and still hasn't learned a whole lot, and she's working on training him. I think, though, that she was thinking of using him more as a stud dog as he gets older, along with some of the training. She's trying to determine if he would make a good search and rescue dog. Her one dog that is now the therapy dog, she does okay for the training, but there's lots of times she gets bored, and she's decided she doesn't want to look. So that, she was a little bit worried about what she would do in the real world situation when you absolutely depend on those dogs to follow through with the search and rescue. So, there's that. But, yeah, she's had quite a round with these dogs, training them. And it's interesting to watch because I think she just turned 71 years old. And she gets around really well for her age. And with all of the issues that she's had in her life, she's broken quite a few bones, But yeah, she was the sister that I took on the cruise when we went on the hookers on the high sea cruise. We had a blast. We hadn't seen each other for almost 14 years in person. We have talked phone, text, that kind of thing. So it was a lot of fun getting back and sitting. And of course, I will tell you, we took a lot of miniature ducks on that cruise, and we had so much fun hiding the ducks. Some of them in plain sight, some of them a little more obscure, but it was fun watching the kids on the cruise when they would find a duck. So we had a blast with that. But some of the things that I've been looking at a couple of smaller places. There are two that I'm very interested in, and I have told the realtor that I'm interested in those two places. And he's looking to see if we can, if I can actually get in the door for those. So we're working on that. And I've had some people ask me, well, what about the lawsuit? The lawsuit is not going to affect it because once the house is sold, all the money that is being asked for in the lawsuit will be put into escrow, so that once the case is settled, if the contractor gets all of it, then it'll go directly to him immediately. But, well, immediately, within a couple of days after the lawsuit is finished. But right now, we're just working on getting everything done, getting all the documentation, and that, let me tell you, is horrendous in itself, getting the documentation set out there, set aside, and all that kind of fun stuff. So yeah, that has been keeping me kind of occupied on the side, keeping me from doing a lot of the crocheting that I would like to do. I would like to get finished with a lot of things, but sometimes life takes us in different directions. So we have to follow those directions. I do find it funny watching some of the things online with the politics and everything. And I'm the type of person that when someone is running, even if it's someone that I really like, I am still going to go and do the research on the opposite candidate to see what they stand for, what they're calling for, all of that. I believe in making an informed decision, but I also believe in voting for the person that is going to do the best for the nation, and not just because they have an R or a D or whatever behind their name. I had watched part of the interview yesterday, the one with Trump, and where Kamala was supposed to be there, but she was going to do it later by Zoom with some of the, I can't remember what the group was called, NAARP? I don't know. But I did think it was funny watching it, and, Trump is Trump. I mean, he just puts it out there the way he thinks it is. So, I did find that rather funny, some of his responses. Now, I do think what's interesting is what's going around is this video of Trump grabbing the one reporter's water bottle, and people are saying, why did he tighten it? Finding it hilarious. I'm looking at that and I'm like, well, I don't know how to put it to you this way, but from the looks, what I saw, he turned it the way you loosen a water bottle. cap, but maybe I'm just seeing things, I don't know. But I did think it's funny, the things that go around. And I don't know, some of the video that's coming out about this shooter, you know, some of the things that the Butler police are saying didn't happen, whatnot, just makes you wonder. And I can't remember the congressman's name. All I know is his last name is Johnson. Basically stated, we need new conspiracy theories because so far all of the conspiracy theories that have been put out there have come true. Like, well, and then you've got the one shooting victim, Mr. Caperhaven. I think it's Caperhaven. His video where you can clearly see the shooter crawling on the top of the roof before he takes his shots. You know, that kind of puts what the Secret Service is saying in question, so I don't know. It's going to be interesting, isn't it? And what scares me is Secret Service is there to defend past presidents, current presidents. I believe past presidents, it's 15 years after they leave office. And if they're making those kind of mistakes now, you know, that's scary. That's really scary. These are serious mistakes, and they does need to be discovered what exactly happened. And I know a lot of people that go into the Secret Service, that is the ultimate pinnacle of their career for law enforcement. So most of them do an excellent job. So, yeah. So I do hope they get to the bottom of it quicker than later, so that all of our candidates, all of our presidents, past and current, are safe. Even though I've disagreed with some of the past presidents, I want them to be safe when they're out there. You know, end of story. So, yeah. The cats lately, I will tell you, they're having a blast with all the boxes that are lined up and stacked in the craft room. I guess they're taking to it like they're mountain goats. They've been climbing, jumping up, you know, the different levels of the boxes to get up to the top level so they can survey their kingdom. And there are times when I go looking for them and I'll find them back there, you know. And of course then they come in looking for me, which that I find that funny because they do their little trill. It is not, they rarely meow. Ronan meows. When he's meowing, he's trying to get my attention, but for the most part they do a little trill, and that's interesting to hear, you know, them do that, to see them do that, because I have always had cats that did a lot of meowing. Caitlin was a talker. Kodiak was a talker. My mitten, a Siamese, was a talker. They constantly meowed. So it's odd for me not to hear these cats meow. And I guess that is the difference between cats that are really domesticated and feral cats, perhaps. I don't know. That'll be interesting to find out if that is a difference in their behaviors. Who knows? We may never know. I'm glad that the Boggy Blanket Brigade is in full force now. Everyone is asking for the squares and things to be sent, blankets to be sent. Juan has offered up his Delaware home for a place to bring those so that he can bring them down to the Boggy Creek when it's time to deliver them to Boggy Creek Camp and Boggy Camp. And then of course Billy is still, she's been showing us a lot of those new squares she's been getting, so that's fun to see. Lynn Ann has asked for, she asked for 5-inch squares? I think they're 5-inch squares. So, you know, by all means get those. If you've not been watching Mimi, Laura of Mimi's Farming and Crochet, she is doing a blanket. It's a beautiful blanket with the cats in it. It is listed, it's done by Sweet Potato. You can find her sweetpotato.com. But she has several of those. They have several, you know, like the guitars, the dogs, pine trees. They have all kinds of different things. But they are doing one with the addition of the cats. Now, I don't think Laura is paying for any more patterns, but she put out there last month that she would pay for the pattern for those who wanted to do that pattern. It's a $6 pattern if you buy it from Sweet Potato for the cats, and it's basically cat done in one color, and then on the opposite side you see the cat in the other silhouette in either white, black, or whatever colors you choose. And it's a beautiful pattern. So I don't think she's paying for any more of those patterns. But like I said, it's $6 on Etsy through Sweet Potato if you want to do it. That's not a whole lot to pay for a pattern. And I believe Sweet Potato even has some video tutorials in that pattern, if I'm not wrong. I believe she does. That is a pattern that I plan on purchasing. I'm waiting on a payment from some of the things I sold on eBay, and I will be purchasing that pattern. So yeah, Boggy Camp is in full swing. I do know that Lynette, since she is getting ready to retire, which congratulations, Lynette, for getting ready to retire. I think there is a question about where they want to wind up living in the long run. So she is asking that you do not send blankets to her at this time. And that is probably a good choice, because if you are planning on moving, having to keep track of blankets for this would be difficult. And who knows, maybe they'll find a place fairly soon and she can start, taking blankets. Who knows? But, yeah, and I think, if I remember correctly, she's fixing to have some knee surgery, too. I think she is. So, keep her in your prayers and keep her in your thoughts, those kind of things, as she undergoes that knee replacement. I don't know if she's got one knee or both knees. I've had friends who have had both knees and had them done at the same time. think you're rather brave when you have both knees done at the same time. But then again, I don't know that I would want to have to go through the therapy twice, to have it done one time and then have it done at a separate time. So maybe that is the smarter way to go about it. Because that therapy, I have watched it as people have gone through the therapy next to me while I was going through different therapy. And anytime you go through physical therapy, there is pain. I'm sorry, there is just pain. And you have to accept that there's going to be pain going through that, those therapies. But yeah, is it worth it in the end? Yes, because you become a more mobile person, And that is the whole point of therapy, to get you back to a state where you are able to, take care of yourself and be mobile. Do the things that you love to do. Especially that with the crochet, when I did that with my tennis elbow. And I do still have some issues with that. Not so much tennis elbow, but what the doctors now call bursitis in that area. But as you can see, I am crocheting. And my big fear was not being able to crochet ever. So yes, I did learn to teach myself to crochet left-handed at the time. And that was a big learning curve. And I keep telling myself I need to practice that. And of course I don't, because I'm lazy, My right hand is working fine, so why should I worry about using it and developing those skills with that left hand? Who knows, might be a good thing to practice with the left hand. To get it in there and to try it. Alright, I have decided I am going to start the scallop once I get this joined around to the second side. I am bored with this blanket. That is the problem. And I do know that I find when I am bored with a blanket, sometimes it's better to just go with the size of the blanket. This is the size of a lapghan. So I am going to let this one go and be done with it. Get that out of there. Okay, let's get to this joining, and then we will start the little bit of that shell pattern. I do turn my work, and there's a reason that I turn my work. I am one of those that when I do a continuous granny square or any blanket continuous, I will see it start to shift, and that is normal because of the way that whether you're left or right-handed, it will skew one way or the other. That is somewhat normal, so I try to avoid that. Okay, so I'm going to put five double crochets in one stitch. Do I want to skip 2 or 3? I think I'm going to put my scallops into my spaces where the granny would be. Oops, what am I doing? Need to put a single crochet there. single crochet there, then into the next space where I would put a granny, I'm going to put the 5 double crochets, then into that next space a single crochet, to the next space 5 double crochets, and that is how I'm going to do this. I think I'm going to stop here and look and see how it looks after I finish this one and put in the single into the next one. I want to make sure that it's not pulling down too much. I don't like the way that looks. I feel like it's pulling it tight. So I am going to place my double crochet in the 3rd stitch over, and then change this up. Let's see if that works a little bit better. And I think it's going to. Actually, I think I'm going to change that to 7 instead of 5 for that scallop. Well, camera stopped filming, reached its limit. Anyway, as I was saying, I changed this up to where I'm doing 7 double crochets in one space, skipping 2, and in the 3rd putting a single, skipping 2, putting 7, skipping 2. I like that. I think it's going to look a little bit better. And we'll see what happens when we get to the corner. So yeah. So what are you guys working on? You working on projects for Boggy Creek? Are you working on personal projects? I'm nosy. I'd like to know. I thought about doing a thing like what Connie does of Just Another Stitch, where I actually ask you to send me pictures and then I'll do a montage of what you guys are working on, but I have no idea if you guys are even interested in that. I mean, I would like to see what you're working on, the items that you've gotten done, finished, even those that you haven't got finished. So what do you think? Do you think you guys are game for something like that? I was watching Creative Grandma the other day, and she was talking about a scam that was going around that involved where people had created a scam saying that basically that their payment hadn't gone through or something, and they were using her business email as one of those, and she was getting all these kinds of negative things from people that had either bought from her or people that were on her list, you know. Even those that are in her groups and just people in general, you know, that they've never bought from her, blah, 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 could you do this? And what it was, it's all a scam, folks. It is absolutely a scam. These scammers are doing anything and everything they can do to get money. And I'll be honest, some of it I'm not even sure is not terrorist related. But it's like this. If you get a notice from anyone saying thank you for your payment, or your payment didn't go through, supposedly coming from a bank, don't click on the link in that thing. Do not click on that link. Go to your bank. Go directly to your bank. And use your usual means to log into your bank to find out if that is even happening. Call your bank. Stop by your bank. To see if it's happening. I will tell you, here where we are at in Pennsylvania, we do not have banks such as Bank of America. There is a Wells Fargo in Bloomsburg and in some of the bigger cities, but I don't think there's a Bank of America in Pennsylvania at all. Pennsylvania chooses to use what they call neighborhood banks, which are smaller banks. You cannot get a big name bank here in Pennsylvania hardly. So just be aware of that. But it was just heartbreaking to see how upset she was about that. And I don't blame her for being upset about that. I've had several of those things that have come to me and I'm like, what? What? Let me tell you about one of the latest scams that I had that came to me. Supposedly from, I want to say Susan Walton, Walmart customer service. I believe that's the name that they used, saying that they had gotten I had won a gift card from them. They were trying to reach me, but they didn't have the information to reach me. They tried to reach me by phone. Blah, 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 by email, you name it, all this other kind of stuff. The problem was, they used an email that I don't use with Walmart. I use a different email with Walmart. So, yeah. So that's another one of those scams. Don't fall for it. And, we get all these other scams that come along, like supposedly the grant that the government's going to give you for $150,000, no strings attached, that kind of shit. Excuse my language. One of the other ones is the, what are they calling it? It's like a debit card that you can use for other things, food, clothing, that kind of stuff, coming from the government. Well, folks, guess what? Those are scams. Don't fall for it. Double check. The way you can find out if it's true or not, go to your government websites. Check it out. See if it's real. Most time, it's not real. Now, granted, there are insurance companies that do give you cards, debit cards. It's not really a debit card, it's a gift card. For doing certain visits, those kind of things. I know when I went and got my mammogram done, I got a gift card for Walmart for $25, and that was through my insurance. So those are sometimes valid, but you need to double check with your insurance to see if they actually do it. And of course, there is a different way that you actually use those than a regular debit card. You don't swipe it or anything else. So so that's been fun and interesting to see those, because I did not realize my insurance company did that. So yeah, that is what I'm doing here for this one. I do like the little scallop edge on the edges. And yes, it does make it more feminine. I'm okay with that. I have had a man choose my blanket with the scallop as one of his choices, and had pink in it and everything else. He didn't care. He thought it was a beautiful blanket. That's the one he wanted. So I don't worry about those kind of things anymore. I do know that you can use a, more straight edges, block stitch around the edge if you want to use that to make a more angular, what they call masculine look to it, or a picot edge. You could always do that. So yeah. And I will tell you, my boys today, I am filming this on Thursday. My boys today are 45 years old, my twins. And let me tell you, when they were first born, I had no idea how to take care of babies. None. I had no one to help me. My ex-husband, their father, was not a hands-on father, did not want to even feed them, hold them, change their diapers, none of that. So I did all of it, and I had to tell you, they wore me out. Yep, they wore me out, but it was all worth it. So yeah, they're 45 today. So that's kind of fun to see how old they are, to see that they've made it so far. And I think it's funny hearing them groan about being old men now. And birthdays, don't they always sneak up on us as we get older? I don't know about you, but I just find it interesting as I get older how things have changed, the things that I've lived through, all that kind of stuff. But I do think what I find interesting is how violent our nation has been throughout its entirety that I have lived. We have seen so many violent demonstrations. And unfortunately, most of them do come from the left. And I hate to see that. We are a great company, a great nation. And I hate to see so much division in our country. And I look at it like this: sorry folks, presidents come and go. Issues come and go. We should always be looking out for one another. So I just find it sad to see the state that our United States has come to, where a lot of people still think it is a nation to come to. They want to come here, they want to live, to make a life. They see it as being one of the freest nations in the world. And for the most part, we are. But I do see some of those freedoms being taken away from us on a daily basis. And that is sad to see. We've seen our government trying to, and not just our federal government, but state governments trying to control our farmers to the point of withholding their water rights from them so that they cannot water crops, feed their cattle, take care of their cattle in the right way. And I'm sorry, we've seen the Biden administration want to put this heat index under OSHA, that the heat index of 80 degrees is too hot. 80 degrees. Our farmers are out there in the heat no matter what it is. And they're out there trying to protect their crops so that they can feed our nation. So we should always back our farmers, regardless of what's going on. And yes, there's all this, blah, blah, blah about cattle and all this kind of stuff. But you know what? Cattle are actually good for the soil. They really are. They put a lot of the nutrients back into the soil when they go pee-pee. They also do a lot for the environment as well as not only eating things, replenishing oxygen. Yes, replenishing oxygen. So I think people should learn more about farming life and be a little more careful about what they propose. And I will say this, I do not want to get rid of cattle. I do not. I like beef. I like it a lot more than I do any other meat. And I'm sorry, you're not going to change the climate by getting rid of one animal or another animal. So yeah, and if you just let cattle go on their own, they're going to reproduce more cattle. That's kind of the way reproduction works. If they get down to it and they reproduce and they have sex, usually there's going to be some results from it. There's going to be another being in the making, no matter what kind it is. And I'm just trying to see some of the things that our nation has gone through in a different lens. Maybe that has to do with getting older. Who knows? What do you guys think? Think that's the part? Because we're getting older? We see things through different lenses? So yeah. It's kind of fun to do this, isn't it? Work on things together. I was thinking about with the blue blanket, I don't know why that's hard to say, that I would take one of the stitch books, crochet stitch books, and maybe work it like a sampler. But then again, I also saw someone had done like a double V blanket, and that came out really looking nice. She just used her scrap yarns, different colored yarns, and made a V-stitch blanket, and I'm like, oh, that would look nice too. So I'm trying to decide what stitches to use for the blanket. I don't necessarily want to use a pattern. Basically just want to do it as I go. Try out some different stitches. So maybe I'll do that later on this afternoon. Look through the stitch books and find some that are basically even numbers or odd numbers, whatever. Who knows? The green blanket I have got set aside in a different bag, and I thought about doing both of them at the same time, working a little bit on one, working on the other, but I don't know if I want to do that. But then again, we all know I'm not monogamous when it comes to projects, so maybe I should give it a try. That way I wouldn't get bored with one blanket over the other. That's a possibility. And do I want it to be a mindless project? Probably. One of them I would like it to be mindless and just go the way it would go. See how it would turn out. So trying to decide what to do on that next one. And do I want it to be in the round? Do I want it to be row by row? All these decisions, folks, they're hard to make sometimes. Not really. I laugh about it because a lot of people tell me, well, how do you just start a blanket and go? Well, I just start a blanket. Decide what to do as I go. As you saw with this one, started out with that moss stitch in the round and was happy with it for a long time. Then I got bored with it and did the Lisa stitch. Of course, that's an idea. Maybe just do a Lisa stitch blanket in those multitude of colors. Maybe we should give that a try. And if you don't know what the Lisa stitch is, basically Lisa Lark of Happy to Hook Creations does a blanket where she starts out with a row, starts with a single, however many stitches she's put on her blanket. And then she does a half double crochet in one stitch, single crochet in the next, and repeats that all the way to the end. And then when she turns, she does the opposite, which she'll put a half double crochet in all the singles, and then a single crochet in the half double crochet, and that will be her blanket along the way. And they do make beautiful blankets. So maybe I should consider that one as my mindless blanket. Because we all know my favorite stitch is the half double crochet. Boy, is it ever. And I don't know why. Just is. So what are some of your favorite stitches? I don't mind doing bobble stitches here and there. I just don't enjoy it as much. Puff stitches, I'm not really a big fan of either one of those, but I do like the way they look. I did one year do a blanket in different colors in the what's called the blackberry stitch, which is basically a bobble stitch, then a single crochet. And then you go back and you do a row of single crochets. I did that one year and it came out really nice, but man, were those a lot of bobble stitches. Of course, the good thing about that is it does eat up a lot of yarn. Gets rid of a lot of yarn. Does make a nice blanket though. It is a thick blanket. I have a friend also. She has been making weighted blankets, crocheting weighted blankets with pony beads, I believe. So I was going to do a search for that because I've got tons of pony beads. And I do know that weighted blankets do help people who are rather anxious. So I have thought about that. But I have a feeling, I'm wondering if when they make these, it's made using the pony beads in fringe. And I'm not a big fan of fringe. So I guess I should look that up and see what it is. Maybe there's a YouTube for how to make them. You know, YouTube, there for everything. Can you believe that YouTube has not been around that long? I think, what, 1993 or 95? Can't remember when it was. Do you know Google hadn't been around that long either? You know, you remember back the day when we were kids, when we had to go look up information? We had to go to the library or use an encyclopedia. Then you had to go to the library and you had to know the Dewey System. So you could look up your thing and go find it in the book racks. How many of you still use libraries? I know I like the library because I don't have to pay for a book. Many times the library has the book. I can go read the book. You know, that kind of thing. Our library also has different activities that they do. So that's fun. Of course, they always have activities for the kids. So do you use your libraries where you're at? Or have you just kind of gone away from using libraries? I think libraries are important. Not only for the educational part of it and for books, but to be able to go and look at some of the older books. I know many times I have gone over to look for craft books, crochet, knitting books, the library, and yes, my library does have some. And some of them are quite ancient. Some of those crochet and knit patterns are actually more recipes than an actual pattern. And by recipe, I mean they tell you to cast on so many stitches, increase every so-and-so for, 9 rounds, whatever, or until you reach this many inches, and then start this. Yeah, some of them are actually recipes. And then later on it tells you how to insert a zipper into it, and you're like, zipper? I didn't even know there was a zipper in the pattern. So yeah, some of the older patterns are rather interesting to read and see. And I am one of those people. I do have some work basket magazines, and I do not like to get rid of any of those. And when people are giving away those, if I don't already have that one, I like to take them and hold on to them because I think they're fun to look at. Work baskets not only had all kinds of things, knit, crochet, plastic canvas, They also had macrame, they had recipes, they had sewing patterns, they had all kinds of things in them. And looking at some of the ads too, that's kind of funny to get to see some of those older ads. So I do enjoy a good old magazine every once in a while. And like I said, Work Basket is one of my favorites, just because it has so much information. And I can remember seeing a lot of those old recipes where they would use the molds for Jello molds. And I think there's some guy that had done a I want to say it was a reel on Instagram about one of the old molds, the tuna salad, pineapple, something like that. It's crazy. And I was like, I remember reading that recipe and thinking, ew, that sounds disgusting. But yeah, some of the things that our parents did in the old days, crazy. My mother had gotten a recipe, I want to say, maybe it was Good Housekeeping or Family Circle years ago. And it was for a ham salad. And the ham salad, it had eggs in it. It had pickles. I don't know if it was sweet pickle relish or if it was just pickles, gherkins, sweet pickles cut up. Yeah, and it had a little bit of ham in it. Or you could substitute Spam, chopped up. But most of it was actually bologna that was chopped up. And you put that in there, mixed it in with mayonnaise or Miracle Whip. Miracle Whip was a big thing back then. And you would mix it in with that. And I want to say my mother used to also, sometimes she would mix in, and I don't even know if they even make it anymore, but I think it was called salad dressing relish. It was kind of orangish pink colored, had pickles, and I believe it had like Cool Whip, goodness Jane, had Miracle Whip in it. But she used to buy that lots of times to put on salads and things like that. And in this ham salad that she would make, we had no clue, and it was a way to spread things a little bit cheaper, to make meals. So, I see some of those recipes, and I remember that with her ham salad. And yes, I occasionally make that because I did enjoy it. I liked eating it. It was delicious. And I do remember many of those days that we ate canned Spam. My favorite was to have it fried. But Mother would cut it up and put some of that special relish on it. And that made a sandwich, and we were good to go. Of course, we also used to get a lot of bologna. We ate fried bologna all the time. Ate it cold, you name it. There was something special about having a fried bologna sandwich or having bologna boats. And if you don't know what a bologna boat is, it's where you don't cut the bologna. Normally when you fry bologna, you need to put slits in it So when it fries up, it doesn't make a cup. But this, you would allow it to fry up and make a cup. Then you would break an egg in it and let the egg cook in it. And then you would eat that. Yeah, we had some rather strange things, as I was growing up. And of course, a lot of that was because of the high cost of food. We were not rich. We were poor. I can remember many a time that we would start out with, at the beginning of the week, we would have pinto beans. And I do mean a big pot of pinto beans. And along with that pinto bean, we would have fried potatoes and onions. And then we would have cornbread, but it wasn't just plain cornbread. It had to be sweet cornbread. And of course, the sweet cornbread was basically the dessert because it was sweet. And then you would put the beans and a little bit of the juice on a piece of bread on your plate, like chipped beef, and you would have it that way. And if we had butter, you might be allowed to have a little pat of butter on top of that, and that was your meal for the day. The next day, oftentimes we would have the leftover fried potatoes with eggs cooked in them and toast. And then the following day, my mother would make chili, and it had the beans in it. And then the following day, she would make spaghetti, and the spaghetti would have the chili that was left over from the day before with the beans in it. So yeah, I can remember those kinds of meals all the time. And I do remember my older sister and my mother every once in a while had fried liver and onions. The rest of us in the house did not care for fried liver and onions, so my dad would make pizza. And he always used the Chef Boyardee. No, not Chef Boyardee. He used Appian Way pizza mix. And I don't think you can even get Appian Way, but it was always my favorite pizza mix. All it had in it was the dough to make the pizza crust. It also had in it the sauce, and it had a little packet of Parmesan cheese that you could sprinkle on top. Well, my dad would add, mozzarella cheese. He'd make one cheese, and he would also make one that had salami. His favorite was a salami and mushroom pizza, and he would make that. So that was rather interesting, coming back and remembering those things. So yeah, life was very different back then, wasn't it? But I do know that when I am looking for a comfort meal, my go-to meal, believe it or not, is pinto beans with fried onions and potatoes and sweet cornbread. One of my favorite meals, and always has been. So yeah, some of those recipes we saw back in the day, and one of my favorite was my mother. The very first time they planted a garden, she planted okra, she planted tomatoes, she planted some potatoes, and she planted 2 rows of zucchini. we had zucchini everything. We had zucchini in the mornings. We had it at bedtime. She learned to make muffins, chocolate cake with zucchini, chocolate muffins, brownies with zucchini, zucchini bread. We had, believe it or not, lasagna with zucchini long before it became something that folks would use for a weight loss meal. We had it all over the place. She also made a recipe called mock crab cakes, and it uses zucchini and Old Bay seasoning. I have to see if I can find that recipe. I think it's in the cookbook that I have from her. But yeah, those are some of those days. All right, we've reached the end, so it's time to finish off. So I want to thank you for joining me as I finish this blanket. And yeah, kept you long enough. I kept you probably over an hour now. So I hope you stayed this long. And if you didn't, well, hope you enjoyed some of it. But yeah, that is it for today's video. And let's try to remember, let's not let the politics drive a wedge between us this year. We can still disagree on policies. We can disagree on a lot of stuff and still be friends. So let's keep that in mind. All right, guys, I'll see you again next week. Bye.